In the beginning of the story, we are shown a village which was very beautiful and peaceful. But in a short while the peace turns into noise. Some people gather outside a house who were very angry. Inside that house, a girl tells the lady of the house that Xiao has again caused harm to many people and people are very angry. That lady asks the girl to open the gate and let everyone in. The scene shifts to a forest where we see Xiao, who had laid a trap to catch the most dangerous animal of the forest and is waiting for him to come in hiding. That animal comes there, which is not an animal at all but looked like a monster. That monster foils all the traps of Xiao and runs away from there, and Xiao also chases him on his horse. The scene once again shifts to his house where that lady gives freebies to all the people in return for their loss. But that girl explains to him that if she keeps telling things to everyone like this, then one day her house will become completely empty. Here, during the conversation, we come to know that Lady she is the wife of the elder brother and is his Bobby. The story moves forward and we see Xiao again, who is still chasing the monster, and despite shooting with his arrow gun, nothing happens to the monster. On the contrary, Xiao makes the monster angry. After fighting with the monster for some time, Xiao starts overpowering him. But before the monster can do anything, another man comes from behind and catches the monster and kills him. The man asks Xiao if he is fine, but seeing the monster dead, Xiao cries loudly and says that he was working hard for the last 8 months to catch this monster alive, but they came and ruined all his efforts. The man apologizes to Xiao, but in return Xiao says that he will have to pay some fine for killing this monster. Before the man gets angry at Xiao, an old man with the man comes in front of Xiao, apologizes to him and gives him some money in return. The old man asks Xiao his name and also asks him if he knows a man named 𝐂𝐸𝐿. Xiao gets a little scared on hearing this name, but he does not let the expression come on his face and leaves from there after convincing them. After this, both the men leave for some other place to find 𝐂𝐸𝐿. After some time, Xiao reaches his home, and after seeing that monster, the condition of that girl worsens, but Xiao's sister-in-law first applies medicine on Xiao's wounds. After seeing his condition, Xiao tells his sister-in-law that he had to catch that monster because he had to make some of his medicines from the monster's liver. Xiao also tells them about those 2 men he had met who were asking him about 𝐂𝐸𝐿, i.e. Xiao's elder brother. Jane, who is Xiao's sister-in-law, tells that today only a letter from his brother has come for Xiao. Hearing this, Xiao becomes very happy and runs to his room. While reading the letter, the deceased tells Xiao that he is currently serving the king in Royal Plus and will be returning soon. He also advises Xiao to focus on his studies and not indulge in worldly activities. After reading the letter, Xiao feels quite relaxed and starts thinking about his brother while looking at the sky. Here suddenly there is a time skip and we are shown a scene of the future. Here a girl is sleeping comfortably when her phone rings and a boy's voice comes from the other side saying that they have found some proof of the time of the Kim dynasty. Hearing this, the girl gets ready quickly and leaves for that place. After reaching here, we are shown the boy who had called her here and takes her to a place where we see many statues which belong to the Kim dynasty. Here the story goes back to the past in Xiao's time, where at night he hears a lot of noise and he goes to check. Then he comes to know that some people from the royal capital had come to take 𝐂𝐸𝐿's wife, i.e. Jane, with them, and Jane will have to go alone with her. At first, Jane refuses to let Jane go alone, but Jane tells him that Jane will have to focus on her studies and will go alone with those soldiers, otherwise their whole village may get harmed for not obeying the king. Jane quietly goes with those soldiers, but Jane was in a hurry, so he also starts following them. While chasing the soldiers, Jane attacks them, in which Eva is badly injured. The army commander agrees to take Jane with him to the royal palace for attacking the soldiers, and he leaves for the royal place with Jane and Jai. All these things are seen by both the men who talk to Jai in the forest, but they do not do anything in this matter. The next day, while going to the royal palace, Jane scolds Jai and tells him this. There was no need to do all this. Jai should not get involved in this politics, but Xiao explains to them that he cannot leave Xiao and Ko alone, otherwise, if anything happens to them, then he will never be able to forgive himself. On the other hand, we are shown the scene of the royal palace, where some people come to the king and tell him that they have discovered the Amrit, and now the king is not worried about his death. Hearing this, the king, there is no limit to the happiness of the king. He is ready to give the desired reward to all those people out of happiness. But suddenly the king comes to know from somewhere that all the people are lying, and they are trying to kill the king. The king immediately orders his soldiers to give a very bad death to all those people, and in a lot of anger starts going towards his room. After some time, 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 also comes there and tells the king that he has really discovered the nectar, and on hearing this, the king gets angry and gets very angry. But he also trusts the mother's mother, so to test this medicine, he called the mother's wife 𝐂𝐸 to his palace. By now, Jane and 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐫 had also reached the palace. After coming, Jane's eyes go towards 𝐂𝐸𝐿. On seeing him, 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 runs towards his brother, but he sees that his brother has handcuffs on his hands. After seeing this, Jane and 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 lose their senses, but then the king comes. The announcement is made. As soon as the king arrives there, 𝐂𝐸𝐿 requests the king to send his brother and wife back from here. But the king tells 𝐂𝐸𝐿 that if his medicine can really make someone immortal, then why is 𝐂𝐸𝐿 so afraid? And now this medicine will be experimented on his wife, and she will be made a living statue. Then after 1 year, if she comes out alive from inside that statue, then it will be believed that 𝐂𝐸𝐿 was speaking the truth. But if all this is a lie, then his entire family and vinegar will be destroyed. The story once again comes to the future, where the girl is exploring that place thoroughly, and at the same time that boy tells her that they have found another amazing thing. The girl goes to see that thing, where she finds out that this thing is the armor of the strongest king of those king dynasty, which is a very old armor, and at the same time this armor's helmet is the most precious thing in the world. The girl looks at this helmet carefully, but she feels that it seems that the helmet is also watching her. After some time, the light goes off and the girl comes to know that she is alone. Suddenly someone attacks her. Then the story comes back to the past. Now here to save her husband and the life of her village, Jane agrees to give this test. But 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 comes in between and makes Jane unconscious and requests the king to test him instead of Jane. At first the king gets very angry with this act of 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲, but later he agrees and also threatens 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 that if this medicine of his brother does not work on him, then the whole village of 𝐂𝐲𝐲 will be destroyed. But 𝐂𝐲𝐲 had full faith in his brother that his medicine will definitely work, and he is ready to become a statue. But exactly after a year, he will come out alive. The scene comes back to the future, and we see that the man who attacked that girl is a treasure hunter who is an expert in stealing precious things like the armor and helmet. Also, he has stolen this place. He also turned off the lights so that no one could find out, and they are there. After some time, 𝐂𝐸𝐿 keeps looking at the armor and helmet, and while talking to himself, he tells the value of that helmet that no one can guess the value of this helmet like the full golden armor. But that girl punches the hunter and runs away with the helmet and now hides in the darkness. By doing this, the hunter gets more angry and starts breaking all the statues around. To find that girl, the hunter puts one of his monkeys to work. That monkey finds that girl, but the girl throws the helmet away with the fear that the helmet might fall into the hunter's hands. Now the hunter's anger crosses all limits, and he makes a very big blast there with his magic. But the girl is not affected by that blast. Here, an amazing thing happens, that the statue starts breaking, inside which there was a human being. Seeing a human being, the hunter becomes very happy, because for him it was like icing on the cake, because he had to fight with an ancient army. Along with that, a living person has also been found. 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 also comes out and looks around in confusion. His eyes go towards that girl whose face resembles 𝐂𝐲 to a great extent. Seeing that girl, he remembers his past, where before becoming a statue, his brother gave him a locket and also told him that now time will stop for him. He will feel that he has taken a long sleep, and when he wakes up, his brother will definitely come to meet him. In the present, now Hunter tries to attack 𝐂𝐲𝐲𝐲 as soon as he sees him, but 𝐂𝐲𝐲 stops him with his powers. Then hearing the sound of fighting, some people come there. Seeing them coming, Hunter also takes the wisdom to run away from there. 𝐂𝐲𝐲 calls that girl sister, and that girl also keeps looking at 𝐂𝐲𝐲. After this, the scene of the police station is shown, where the inspector calls that girl Jean. Jan tells the whole story to the inspector, but it was difficult for the inspector to believe that 𝐂𝐲𝐲 was a boy from old times. Jan explains a lot to the inspector, and without explaining anything, the inspector finds Jan and 𝐂𝐲𝐲. After coming out of the station, Jang repeatedly calls Jean bar sister, due to which Jean gets irritated and leaves him there and thanks him for saving her life and goes away from there. Jang is also surprised to see such an advanced place, so he follows Jang and Jang catches him. To get rid of him, she goes to a crowded road and gets into a taxi. But Jane was also very stubborn and still does not leave Jane, and while chasing him, he causes a huge traffic jam and also causes an accident. Due to his act, Jean has to come to the police station once again. However, an inspector very lovingly explains to Jean that she should take care of her brother because perhaps his mental condition is not good. Jean repeatedly explains to him that he is not her brother. The inspector files an FIR against Jean and Jane for accidents and breaking traffic rules. At that time, a big lawyer comes and gets Jean bail. The lawyer tells that he has been hired by Jane's company and to get Jean bail. We see that Jean gets very angry on hearing the name of this company and leaves Jane there and runs away from there. The lawyer asks Jean to sit in a big car so that he can drop her at her home. But Jean refuses him and himself goes to the police station. She leaves for her home. Jeong was still in the station, so the inspector puts him in jail with the other prisoners and asks him to wait for his sister. Jeong also agrees to his words, but the prisoners inside were very dangerous. One of them comes in front of Jeong and tries to scold him, but Jeong throws him upside down, after which he beats up all of them one by one and also apologizes to him. Jeong asks if he could find his sister there, to which one of the men says that for that, Jaeon will have to come out of here first. On hearing this, Jaeon stands up and goes in front of the wall and punches it, which breaks the wall into pieces and runs away from there. On the other hand, we see Jean in her house, who is trying to forget Jaeon, but she is worried about Jaeon again and again. After a while, her worry increases so much that she gets a call from the police that Jeong has run away and some goons are actually involved in his escape. The police thought that Jane was an innocent boy and these people had threatened and made him run away. On the other hand, we see Jane who is searching for Jane in the whole town, but he does not find her anywhere. Now Jane also cannot stop and she also comes down from her building to search for Jane, but as soon as she starts going out, she collides with Jane. Jane's condition was very bad, but on seeing Jane, he calls him sister and he also faints. Jane also feels very relaxed after seeing Jane safe and sound and takes him to her room. While sleeping, Jane has a dream in which he sees his sister Jane. She tells him that she will always take care of Jane no matter what time it is. Jane wakes up and sees himself in Jane's room. A modern-style apartment is a very strange thing for Jane. He was roaming from one room to another, and while searching for Jane, he accidentally goes to her bathroom, where Jane was taking a bath, and Jane suddenly sees a woman. Seeing this, she screams loudly and runs away. Next day, while watching TV, the news reporter tells that the treasure hunter has been caught by a police inspector and the helmet has also been placed in its right place. After watching this news, Jean gets very upset. Then Jong comes from behind, seeing which Jean gets very scared. Jean scolds Jong that there is a changing room where boys are not allowed to come. Also, Jong should stay away from Jong during the shooting, otherwise someone might suspect him. Saying this, Jean leaves from there. But Jong stands there and remembers the incident of last night when before getting arrested, that Hunter had said that there are other people in the world who will definitely come to find Jong and then someone will be able to save him. After thinking about this for a while, Jong starts his work. But by mistake he goes into a changing room where a girl was changing her costume. That girl sees Jong and screams loudly and slaps Jong hard and sends him away. Jong also runs away, quickly saving his life. He leaves from there and thinks that why does this happen to him every time? On the other side, we see Jean who is going to the director, but there's already a girl present there. Seeing this, anyone can say that she is a big film star, whom the director is also talking to very politely. That girl comes towards Jean, and Jean also addresses her by calling Tang Lin, but Tang ignores her and goes away. Now the director calls Jean to talk about something and tells her that a big movie producer has decided to sign Jean for his next movie, and if Jean does this movie, then it is possible that she will become a big film star overnight. Jean dreams a lot, but for a moment, this thought also comes to her mind that how did she get this movie suddenly? The director brings Jean to his office, where a man was already waiting for her. On the other side, we see Jean, who is telling one of his partners that how a big film producer has decided to sign Jean for his next movie, and if Jean does this movie, then it is possible that she will become a big film star overnight. Jean dreams a lot, but for a moment, this thought also comes in her mind that how did she get this movie suddenly? The director brings Jean to his office, where a man was already waiting for her. On the other side, we see Jean, who is telling one of his partners that how a big film producer has decided to sign Jean for his next movie, and if Jean does this movie, then it is possible that she will become a big film star overnight. The girl slapped him after hearing which the boy says that the name of this girl must be Tang Jody. Jody is also a Jane actor who wants to make her mark in the world of movies, and Wang Ling has a body double, but Wang Ling does not respect him. Sion feels very bad for Chody after hearing this, and of course, decides that next time he will definitely apologize to Jody. After some time, Jean comes to a room where a lot of weapons were kept which are used in shooting. Jean gets very impressed after seeing those weapons. On seeing Jin's curiosity, the boy shows him 1 or 2 weapons. Although the weapons were fake, but still Jean likes their look and style a lot. The scene is shot in front of Jean, after which the director refuses to do the scene for his movies. But somewhere Jean felt that all this is too early. Still, after forcing the director and producer so much, he signs the contract without reading it. After some time, the producer gives a bag full of money to the director, and Mr. Hung comes out from behind the curtain. Seeing Hung, Jean understands that all this is Hung's plan, and she tries to break the contract as quickly as possible. But Hung snatches the contract from her before that, and explains to Jean that he should trust his dad a little. This is where we come to know that Hung is none other than Jin's father, and he is a very rich and powerful man. So he got Jean to roll with the help of his position and money. Jean is not happy with his cunningness and leaves her there. Hong also follows Jean to explain to her that all this is being done for Jin's good. Here we see Jeong. Jojo is tired of how Wang Ling is looking down upon Jody because Jody also had a dream of becoming a popular actress. Jean also comes there, who holds Jaeang's hand and starts taking him there. This entire incident is seen by Han, who thinks that Jean is dating Jeong, so he attacks Jeong, which Jeong easily stops, but Hong warns Jeong to stay away from his daughter. Jean explains to her father that there is nothing like that between them, but when her father does not agree, she punches him and leaves. It is night now, and Jeong, while going towards home and still thinking about those weapons, he hears a girl screaming. We are shown that some people are stopping Jody and asking for the money which her mother had borrowed from her, and now her mother has run away with the money. Jody tries to convince them that she does not have the money right now, but they do not listen and start harassing Jody. This is where Jeong enters, who looks like a Bollywood hero. After taking good care of all the goons, he makes them run away. Here Jody was very broken, so she runs away from there without saying anything to Giant. While running, she starts remembering her life, career, family, due to which her heart becomes very heavy, and she sits on the side of the road and starts crying loudly. But there was no one to console her in this condition. Here a rich-looking man comes who gives money to Jody and takes her to a restaurant and feeds her good food and offers her wine. Jody also likes it. She is aware that an unknown man is doing so much for her, but she was unaware that the man also wants to take advantage of her. The man put something in Jody's wine and made her unconscious, and was planning to do something wrong with her by taking her to his room. At the right time, Jody came to know about the real intentions of the man, and in anger, she killed the man. Now, another problem had come in Jody's life, to escape from which she tries to commit suicide by jumping from the window of the hotel. But here an unseen thing happens. Instead of falling down, Jody hangs in the sky and a ghost appears in front of her. Jody screams loudly after seeing him. First, the spirit talks to her. Before Jody screams loudly after seeing him, the spirit tells her that she will not harm Jody in any way. On the contrary, she will give Jody a new life so that Jody can spend the rest of her life comfortably. Before Jody could understand anything, the spirit tells her name as the producer, and in no time, Jody faints. Jody's eyes open in the luxurious bedroom of the room where she sees the mirror, and her eyes widen after seeing it. Tang Ling is shocked because now she is in Tang Ling's body. The scene shifts to the church where a man brings 2 people with him to meet his boss. The name of this man was 𝐂𝐨𝐩𝐲𝐫𝐢, and one of the two people who came with him was the treasure hunter. The other man with him was named Wolf. 𝐂𝐨𝐩𝐲𝐫𝐢 had brought both of them to meet his boss. Both of them tell their boss about the 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢. Their boss tells the hunter that both of them are #1 donkeys who have decided to work on their own will. After talking for a while, the boss explains to both of them that if both of them work for him, he will give him a good amount of money in exchange for the 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢. After this, both of them leave from there. 𝐂𝐨𝐩𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 asks his boss why he is so interested in the 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢, on which the boss smiles a little and tells 𝐂𝐨𝐩𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 that he has received news that the producer, the spirit, is in this town today. Hearing this, a very angry face appears on his face. The scene shifts and he goes to the shooting location and meets Jean, and while 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 was talking about shooting, Mr. Hung tries to kick 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 from behind, which Jae easily dodges, but this makes Jean very angry and she leaves from there in anger. Hung also does not agree to Jean and follows him. 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 stays alone there. Then Ling comes there, who is actually Jody. We see a scene of last night where Jody is very confused that how did she come in this body. Then some of her assistants tell her about her tomorrow's plan. Here Jody also understands that this is not the same life that the producer had talked about. So now she has to live her life and fulfill her dreams. While they both were talking, a Ferrari comes there from which a very handsome boy comes out, whose name is Ma, who is a famous film star and is also Wang Ling's boyfriend. Ma comes to Wang as soon as he sees her. Seeing Ma Wang, he comes to her and tries to kiss her, but Wang hides from Ma and stands behind Zhang. Seeing this, Ma gets very jealous, and so first he makes fun of Zhang's face. As soon as he comes to know that Vox is a friend of his, Ma gives Zhang a check of 5 lakhs. He takes a loan and shows off, but Mr. Hung takes his check because Mother's father had taken a loan from Hung a few years ago and he was not able to repay it, so this money would be for his interest. Mother does not like this attitude of Mr. Hung at all, so both of them start showing off their expensive things in front of each other. At last, Mother tells her that the location is perfect for a natural scenery. After a while, Jean was remembering her dialogues, where this time she had to speak a historical dialogue in which Zhang was also present there to help her. Then the same boy comes there who was shown to us first, and he takes Jean to show that armor and helmet. Here he asks Jean who is Zhang, on which Zhang tells him the whole story, but the boy was still not believing her words. Here the boy asks Zhang his clan name to confirm, after which he also gets confirmed that Zhang is speaking the truth. Zhang asks him that his brother's name is also not mentioned anywhere in history. There must be some, on which it is revealed that there is no name or trace of any person named 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 in the history. Along with this, the king of that time had ordered to kill all the people of 𝐂 clan, so currently that clan was completely finished. After hearing this, the ground slips from under Zhang's feet. He does not understand why the king gave such an order, and on whose behest, because he had promised Zhang that he will not harm the people of that place. The same scene shifts to the past where we are shown 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 with the same man who was searching for him in the first place. Here we are shown that with the help of 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢, that man defeated his enemy king, who had given the order to finish the 𝐂 clan. 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 tells that he does not support fighting, but the king has been punished for the sins he has committed. But that other man tells that now this is not enough. He also needs that legendary treasure, which was hidden by some magicians years ago. To find that treasure, that man along with his soldiers goes to that place. He opens the caves, but before finding the treasure, he finds some zombies who start killing all those soldiers one by one. To kill all those zombies, the man burns them alive along with his soldier. He thinks that now the entire treasure will be his, but this was also his mistake. A light comes out from inside, seeing which the man also understands that his dream of getting the treasure is very difficult to be fulfilled. That bright light comes out of the cave and goes into the sky, seeing which the clouds break into 2 parts. Seeing this, the man named 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 shoots his magic arrow from the sky with the help of his bow and orders the rest of his army to leave from there as soon as possible. The scene comes back to the present where the boy tells 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 that no one can change what has happened, but if 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 wants, he can definitely help him understand the past. Yes, but the boy shows 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 some photos found in that cave. Seeing one of the photos, his eyes get wide open, but he doesn't say anything. Hearing the news of his entire family's death, 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 gets very angry and performs his stances, which the director feels will spoil the entire shooting. 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 comes aside to rest a little, where Wong brings water for him and sits next to him to talk to him. Jean sees all this, who feels a little jealous, but it was already time for her shooting, so she doesn't do much. But on the other hand, the mother was watching them quietly, but Mr. Han feels that he is trying to seduce Jean, so he beats him up well. Then they get a call from a man. Kong was very serious while picking up the call. That man calls Hung to meet him. Hung goes to the man's office to meet him immediately, but from his facial expressions it seems as if he is very angry with that man. We see that the yellow-haired man is in a mood to joke as soon as he sees Mr. Hung, but Hung asks him to tell him only about work. The man's name is Zoom, who runs a detective agency, and he is also very fond of making things from paper, which Hung does not like at all. Actually, Hung had asked him to find out the information about Hunter, due to which his daughter was attacked. After some time of joking and laughing, Jung gives them all the information. Jung was interfering too much in Mr. Hung's personal life, so Mr. Hung gets a little angry at first, but he vents his anger on the table in front of him and leaves from there. On the other hand, Ma is calming down her anger by shooting an arrow at a poster of Mr. Hung in her office. Ma's manager tells her that Hung is not just a rich man or a real man. In his youth, he used to be a gangster who won big fights just with the strength of his hands. But even now, many people consider him no less than a monster. Hearing this, Ma's anger flares up even more, and he decides that he will finish him off tonight itself. In the next scene, we see Jean, who had come to the roof to meet Jong. She was surprised everywhere because the atmosphere here was just like a village. Jong had made that place suitable for living in a very short time. Jean sees that Jong is not there yet, but inside her tent there are many history and agriculture books and also a personal diary. At first she was shy to read someone's personal diary, but later she reads it in excitement. In the beginning, there were many pages in which Jean was praised, but as she reads the book further, she understands that Jeong has been investigating in that cab for many days. As he came here and looking at the book, it seems as if he is searching for something. On knowing the truth of this, Jean herself goes to that location. It is quite late and she is also feeling scared, but gathering courage. She moves forward slowly and she realizes that someone is following her, and her guess was absolutely correct because the men are following her and she is his father. Seeing them there, Jean understands what is going on there, but then she also sees her friend there who comes to meet her. Here, Jean now understands what is going on here, on which her dad explains her that everyone is trying to find Jin's elder brother Jin Fong, who went for treasure hunting 7 years ago, but suddenly disappeared. Until date, Mr. Hung has not been able to find him even using his connections. Jin's friend is involved in all this because he also went for this hunt along with Jin's brother, but he came back alive alone and Jin's brother disappeared somewhere. After listening to everything, Jean understands that Jean has a role in all this. Then we are shown Jean, who is looking at the mark on the rock very carefully, as if he has known that mark for years. This is because he really knew that sign, because the mark is his brother's mark. Every member of Jin's clan has a special sign, and this sign was of his brother. Also, at the place where Jin's brother disappeared, this mark was also there. Now Jean understands what is the connection between his brother's disappearance and Jin Fong, and now with Jin's help, they are trying to find Jin's brother. On the other hand, Wang Ling also calls him and asks him where he is, to which he replies that the shooting is not over yet and he is at the location. He hangs up after asking him to wait there, and it was clear from his voice that his intentions are not good at all. Here again we see Jean, who is not happy at all that his dad and friend are using Jeong to find his bike, on which Mr. Hung explains to him that this problem is much bigger than he thought, so he should not interfere in this matter and should leave from here. Then Wolf enters here, who has received an order to kidnap Jeong and Jean. Seeing him, Mr. Hung asks Jean to run away from here as soon as possible, but Jean does not want to leave his dad alone. Hearing this, Hung smiles and says that nothing will happen to him because these small-time goons cannot harm him. After hearing such a big insult, Wolfie does not keep calm and Mr. Hung, but he attacks with his punch, but Hung dodges it, and Wool laughs and says that he has heard from his senior that Kahong is a powerful warrior who defeated all his enemies in his days without using any weapon. Hearing this, Hung also comes into his serious mode and teaches that Wolf a good lesson by using his red scarf as a weapon. After seeing her father in this form for the first time, Jean is still confirmed that her father is absolutely serious. So now she is worried about 𝐿𝐸𝐲, and she now runs to find him. On the other hand, 𝐿𝐸𝐲 finds a stone around which there are symbols of the clan, seeing which he understands that this is the place from where anyone can go back and forth in time. He was investigating the place when 𝐿𝐸𝐻 comes there and introduces himself to 𝐿𝐸𝐻, but 𝐿𝐸𝐻 asks him who he is and what he was doing. 𝐿𝐸𝐻 tells him that he is a visitor who came here only for a walk. After saying this, he leaves because he doesn't want to disturb 𝐿𝐸𝐻. In one scene, we see Hunter, who is looking for 𝐿𝐸𝐻. In the next scene, we are shown Mr. Ma, who is looking for Wang Ling and 𝐿𝐸𝐻, and when he doesn't find them, he starts vandalizing the shooting location. Then Wang Ling arrives there, but his mother did not behave well with him, for which Wang slaps him, and in anger, he starts vandalizing even more. We again see 𝐿𝐸𝐻, who had understood those symbols, and as soon as he uses his fire powers, a hologram gets activated in front of him and a big gate appears in front of him. On one side was 𝐸𝐻, who was searching for 𝐿𝐸𝐻 everywhere, and her friend was also following her. Then Hunter attacks him from behind. 𝐸𝐻 handles him, but Hunter says that this time 𝐿𝐸𝐻 is also not with 𝐸𝐻, so this time he will definitely take his revenge. Hunter was about to get his rats to attack 𝐸𝐻 when 𝐸𝐻 comes there and sets fire to Hunter's hand with his paper magic. Here Hunter was very angry because whenever 𝐿𝐸𝐻 is about to kidnap 𝐸𝐻, someone comes and saves his life. Even now 𝐿𝐻 tells 𝐸𝐻 to go away from here because he can handle this Hunter alone. 𝐸𝐻 comes and finds 𝐸𝐻 and asks him about this. After telling everything, 𝐸𝐻 starts running from there. Hunter leaves the mice behind him, but 𝐸𝐻 makes a cat with his paper magic, which reminds the mice of their grandmother. On the other side, 𝐿𝐻 sees an empty space above the door, which was exactly as big as the locket around his neck. 𝐿𝐻 understands that it is definitely his brother who is going to make this door. He knew that one day 𝐿𝐻 will definitely find that door. That is why he gave him that locket. 𝐿𝐻 fits that locket in that place. Just then a bright light comes there, and due to the impact of that bright light, all the people who were part of this story till now suddenly teleport, although no one knows where they are going because the light takes them to where they should have been. In the next scene, we see a scene of the past which is of Lu Kingdom. This scene is of an incident that has happened in the past. But in this, the people who have come from our present will also have a share, and their what will be the role, we will be shown later. Moving ahead in the story, we see King Lu, who has an old man named Jianqing come to meet him. King Louis becomes very happy on seeing him and welcomes him with full respect and honor. The purpose of bringing Jingqian here was only that he calls King Jing of King Lu to make a peace treaty with him. King Lu becomes very happy because his friendship with a king like Jiang Lu is a big deal. That's why Jiang also finds himself there, but he himself did not know how he came there. After understanding the surrounding situation, 𝐿𝐻 understands everything. He remembers that he had read about this incident in books, and here King Lu gets an offer from King Jiao in response. So in reality, it was not a peace treaty, but King Jiang had tried to kill King Lu, but King Lu escaped from his attack. Here 𝐿𝐻 also understands that he is still playing the role of King Lu's personal assistant. King Li is playing the role of King Leo, and similarly everyone else is also stuck in someone's rule. On the other hand, we are shown King 𝐿𝐻, who is planning to kill King Leo with one of his ministers, and they decide that tomorrow they will have a show of SWAT dance in which they will kill King Lu. The next day King Lu goes to his house with his entire army where 𝐿𝐻 had called him. 𝐿𝐻 also has to go with him. On seeing King Yung, 𝐿𝐻 remembers that he has met him before, but King 𝐿𝐻 does not remember anything like that. King Li and King Yung first discuss all their important topics, so they send 𝐿𝐻 out so that they can talk comfortably in private. Then we are shown 𝐸𝐻, who has got the role of 𝐿𝐻's army commander. 𝐸𝐻 sees 𝐿𝐻 and runs towards him. 𝐿𝐻 is also very happy to see 𝐸𝐻, but when 𝐸𝐻 asks him where and why they all had gone suddenly, even 𝐿𝐻 does not have an answer to this. But he knew that they don't have to change the history, and whatever is happening should be allowed to happen the way it is. Then he is called inside for some work where he sees two people doing sword battle. One of whom was Mr. Hung. 𝐸𝐻 was very happy to see her dad, but when Hung overreacted, he punches him. Seeing 𝐸𝐻, Xiang offers 𝐸𝐻 to have a drink with him, and the man drinks, and he is none other than Yung. Then King Xiang gives a signal, and an army comes there which kills King Lu. As soon as King Li dies, A bright light comes there again, which takes them back to the place where the incident started. But this time the characters of the people had changed again. This time Jeong himself is Jianchan, who had come to bring a peace agreement. Seeing King Li, he says that Wang Lin herself was very happy to see Wang Jiong, but both of them again did not want to change anything in the past, so they do not talk much until then. We see the rest of the people that Hunter and Wolf have become part of King Lu's army, but Hunter does not understand how and why he has come here and angrily starts arguing with his senior. Wolf tells him to keep calm, then Hunter is reprimanded by his seniors for his misbehavior. Suddenly Shabbat teaches. On the other hand, King Jong is about to perform a short dance for Mr. Hung here, but Jean has to play the role of King's assistant. Jean forbids King Jang from killing King Lu, to which Jang angrily says that King Lu must be killed. The next day everything starts exactly like before, only everyone's characters had changed. Jean and Jong were sitting face to face, and King Lu was with Jong. Jean tried to explain to Jong through gestures many times that they should run away from here, but Jong did not understand his words at all. Then the short dance starts, which happened between Mr. Hung and Hunter. Jong finally understands everything and tries his best to protect King Lu, but in the end King Jang somehow kills King Lu in this too, and this whole sequence starts once again. In the second scene, we are shown the scene of the future where Jin's friends were investigating about where all the people suddenly disappeared from in front of his eyes. A lot of investigations. Even after doing all this, when he does not get anything, he gets very upset. Then the boss of the Hunter Guild comes behind him, and seeing him, the boy gets a little scared at first. But that man says that he has come here only to help. He just looks at all the research papers and photos properly, and after seeing them, he understands that all these people are trapped in an infinite loop. Giving a little more detail, the boss tells that maybe Jong has accidentally started such a time loop, which was made to imprison someone there, and now because they have started that loop, all of them cannot come out of there until they follow their respective roles properly. If they try to change anything in history, then the loop will start again and will continue until they match their roles and history. And this thing of that boss is also absolutely true, because inside the loop, the roles of all of them were changing with each other again, and every time with the death of King Lu. The loop starts from the beginning, and that boss, he tells that if they want to come out of this loop, then everyone has to work together, otherwise they will never be able to come out. The story goes back to the past, where this time we see Jong as the personal assistant of the king, and Jan as Jong Chan. Jan is happy and angry to see Jong again, and both of them are playing this role for the 10th time, and every time after the death of King Lu, Lu restarts. Both of them go to meet King Lu according to their respective roles. But here a small twist comes in the story, when they come to know that this time the role of King Lu will be performed by Mr. Hung. Seeing her dad in the role of King Lu, Jean gets angry at him. But here Mr. Hawk tells that all this is not his mistake but Jong's, due to which they are trapped here. Jong gives his explanation and tells that he had only put the locket in which his brother was imprisoned in the keyhole, after which all this started. Both father and daughter look at Jong's locket carefully, and Hung tells that if with its help, then they can break free from the locket. If they have come here, then there must be a way to come out. This time they all plan among themselves that they will have to save King Lu from getting killed in this way also, because only then they can return to their world. Here we are shown King Lu and his commander, who had become Wang. Next day, everything was going on as it happens every time, but it happens that Jong thinks of trapping him at his place, where King Lu dies again and again. Then Young, who has to become a cook this time, also comes there and tells that if they have to protect the king, then just any way will not work. They will have to find a way together. Now it was time for King Jong to come, and everything was going perfectly till now. This time the two people who were selected for the shot dance were Jong and Wolf. While dancing, as soon as Jong and Young get the right opportunity, they attack King Jong from both sides, but King Jong stops their attack from both sides. Seeing him, it seemed as if he already knew that what will happen next. What is going to happen on a signal from Jong? The whole army comes inside. But this time Hunter also helps and stops the whole army for some time, and at that time Hung is also protecting himself, because if something happens to him, then this loop will start again. Jong's fight was going on with Jong, and he was also looking for someone through whom he can send King Lu out safely. Here Kai Jin enters sitting on a horse, who makes Hung sit with him and starts running away from there. seeing their king's life in danger. The people of King Lu's army also protect him with their lives, and everyone along with Jing were trying to stop King Yung from killing King Lu as much as possible. But here we are talking about King Yung. As soon as he realizes that now King Lu is going to go out of his control, he calls for his bow and aims at Lion. Zhang was watching all this in front of his eyes, which shows that there is such a way to break the loop. They won't get another chance. So just as Zhang's arrow is about to hit King, Zhang comes in between and goes through the arrows, but stops due to the reduced speed, and King Lu can now easily reach them. As soon as this happens, all the people who were stuck in this loop start disappearing again. But before that, Zhang goes to another timeline and watches this timeline like a movie, where he was watching the scene of that time that King Yung has chosen Mr. 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫𝐢 as his new minister. Zhang does not understand anything. Why did his brother betray his king and support Yung? Because he looks a little further. Yung comes to know that in the past when he was made a statue, even then the king did not fulfill his promise and also burnt all the people and village of Zhang. So somehow 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 and Jane escaped from there. But 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲's anger for the king had increased so much that to stop him, he had given support to Yung, in return of which he only wanted that after Zhang became the king, he should bring an atmosphere of peace in the whole kingdom, on which Zhang had also promised, but only after making Zhang the king. Gradually, 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 realizes that supporting Zhang was the biggest mistake of his life, because in search of his treasure, he had caused more destruction than the old king. One day, Zhang comes to meet 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 at her house. Seeing him suddenly, 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 understands the purpose of his visit. Zhang knew that 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 was not only a good magician, but also a good crafter. He had been an armorer for many powerful kings. Zhang had also come to give the order that he should make such a strong armorer for him as well. But 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐲𝐫 knew that if he gave such an armorer to Zhang, he would become a threat to all humanity. Still, he could not refuse the king's order. He makes him an armorer helmet, and this is the same armor that he had seen in the future. After seeing so many scenes, Zhang once again goes into another time loop in which once he was in the battlefield, and this battlefield was between Li and King Yung. Also, on the other side, we also see Mr. Hung, who is in this time freed from the loop and back to the present. 𝐂𝐲, standing in the battlefield, does not understand where he has suddenly come. Then another army officer explains to him that 𝐂𝐲 is running away to save his life in a battlefield. 𝐂𝐲 still does not understand anything, yet he starts running. In the scene we see King Lu, according to whom he has fought with King Yung's army for the third time, and he asks for some advice from his commander. The people who were included in his commander were Jin Yung Wang and his two personal bodyguards, Hunter and Wolf. Now here, first of all, there is a lot of debate and fight between those five because no one understands anything, and they are again stuck here. Here our wise Yung calms them down and tells that according to his knowledge, this is the time when Jin Leo ran away to save his life, and King Zhang continuously attacked him. But if we look at the history, in the end King Lu had won the war. Now here Ji tells that last time he played his roles properly. They had completed the battle, and probably that is why Mr. Hung is not with them, and they have returned to reality. Now Jin tells them that this means that they will have to match the history and their actions again, and if someone wants to break this loop, they should make a strategy to win the battle, keeping in mind that their army will attack King Yung's army from all directions simultaneously, for which he has a few people less. King Lu tells them that they have an army leader named War Immortal who has a large army, but is very stubborn, and it will be very difficult to convince him. In the next scene, we see Jaina and Wang who come to ask for help from the War Immortal leader. After a while, she comes to War Immortal's palace and wishes them. But Wang Ling gets very scared seeing his face and seeing his condition. When Jin also sees his face, she screams. Here we see the leader, who was none other than Mother. Both of them scream very loudly and ask Mother, how did he come here? To which Ma replies that he came there just like everyone else has come here. Ma also kidnaps Nad Wang by talking to his soldiers. On the other hand, we see Zhang who has come here after running away from that battlefield. There are some other people with him who consider him a new member and tell him the whole story, and also that now they have to fight directly on the side of War Immortal for the second fight. In War Immortal's palace, Ma has imprisoned Jin, who tells him that he has decided to fight on the side of Jin Zhang and not King Lucky. Jean gets very shocked to hear this because if this happens, they will change the history again and will never be able to get out of this loop. But 𝐂𝐨𝐩𝐲𝐫𝐢 sets out to shake hands with a new child and his big army, and also builds a very big pillar for his own security so that the enemy cannot be touched with arrows. Jean was still repeatedly refusing him that by doing this, he is changing the history, but mother was obsessed with becoming the king. After some time, she sees King Zhang's army. Mother thinks that King Zhang has accepted her demands, but the opposite happens when King Zhang's army makes a surprise attack on mother's army and starts killing everyone one by one. Zhang himself also has to face the mortal side. While he was fighting, he notices Jean. Now Ma also does not accept defeat and orders her army to attack. Both the armies fight each other with great force. But the surprise for everyone was when Jean himself suddenly comes to the battlefield. He comes there at lightning speed, shatters the big pillar made by Ma with just one of his attacks, and kidnaps Jean and runs away from there. All this was happening in front of Zhang's eyes, but everything happened so quickly that Zhang did not even get a chance to do anything. Zhang now makes a plan to save Jean and tells that now they will have to do exactly the same as happened in history. At first, Ma refuses to help them, but later when Zhang threatens to kill him out of fear, he agrees to support them. Mr. Hung is seen in front of Hunter Leek's boss, who asks him that he has to bring his daughter back to reality. The boss says that all this was done by Zhang, and if we think carefully, it is only Mr. Hung's fault that if he had not insisted on finding his son, then all this would not have happened. But keeping all the things aside, the boss shows him the same armor and tells him that there is still some magic left in this helmet, which is connected to the mindset of its owner, which means that if a person with a strong mind wears this helmet, then he can control the mind of its owner. When he is telling all this, we are shown the battlefield scene in the battlefield, where Yung Wang, Mo Hunter, and Wolf were fighting from King Luck's side, and on the other side we are shown Yunko, who tells Jean that they are meeting for the second time now. Jean does not understand when they met for the first time, but here comes a very big twist in the story. The fact is that they met for the first time in the future, or when Jean looked at that helmet for the first time, he felt that someone was watching him, which was true. Jean has always seen him because his mind is still connected to that helmet. On the other hand, Zhang and Yung are talking that they have to win this battle by any means, so they have made a plan. In the present, Mr. Hung wishes that he himself will wear that helmet to save his daughter. Then Bai comes there and calms him down and tells him that Mr. Hung's body will not be able to bear such intense pressure, so he himself will wear this helmet, in return for which the boss wants Zhang. He also agrees to the deal. Bai wears that helmet, but a strange blue light comes out around him. In the past, the army commander asks some of his army members to sing a song. When all those people sing, Zhang's army attacks them. Now at this point, they got trapped in Zhang's trick. Actually, Zhang had sent a small army ahead, which will draw the attention of Zhang's army by singing a song, and by then the rest of the army comes from behind and attacks his army. This plan of theirs worked to a great extent. It is also successful because most of Zhang's army cannot withstand this surprise attack. But Zhang is different. He was riding on his horse and killing all the soldiers coming in front of him one by one and moving ahead. Seeing his such action, the army sends as many people as possible towards him. But Zhang was moving ahead as if he would kill everyone today. To stop Zhang, Hunter and Wolf together try to stop him. Hunter uses his powers to stop him for some time, but Yung defeats him and starts moving ahead. After seeing all this, Yung understands that now it is time for his plan B, for which Zhang will now have to go ahead and fight directly. We see the phone which tries its best to stop Zhang, for which he comes in his human fox form. But Zhang was not in the mood to run today, so he defeats him too, and as soon as he is about to kill, Zhang enters there. On seeing Zhang, Jean tells him to be a little cautious of Zhang, because just like those people who are alive, he is also stuck in a loop. Xiong gets very angry on seeing Jiong because he is still stuck in a loop because of his brother. Jiong also fights him with all his might, but then Jiong uses his sword and splits Jiong's body into two parts. Everyone thinks that Jiong is dead now, but we see that it was a paper clone which Jiong had made using his powers, and as Jiong is thankful, real Jiong comes there and saves Jiong. While saving Jiong, Ma also sends his remaining army to attack Jung. By now Jung is very upset with all these incidents, so he uses his final attack, Black Hole, and within no time everything starts getting erased. Future Bai also gets annoyed by this, whose mind was still connected to Jung. By using that arrow in the past, Jung ends that time loop and now everyone is in another time. They reach there, and now Jung asks Jing that why are we following them in the timeline. Here, Jing reveals that actually this time loop is a prison from which it is impossible to get out, and this prison was created by Matai to control Jung. Hearing this, Jung does not understand anything, whereupon Jing explains him correctly. It is said that Death Eye had made an armor helmet for Jean which had so much power that it can make any common man 100 times more powerful than his power. But along with this, Matai had also told him that the one who wears the armor will keep wandering from one timeline to another for the rest of his life. That is why Jean is stuck here for the last several thousand years, and the one who is doing all this is Death Eye. Now everything becomes clear to Jung. Along with that, Jung also tells that there is only one thing, which is a locket around Jung's neck, and if he gives this locket to Jung, then he will let Jung go. Hearing all this, Jean tries to explain to him that even if he goes to the outside world, he will not be able to do anything because the world has become very advanced now, on which Jean starts laughing loudly and tells that the locket is not just a key, but a device with the help of which the old time can be brought back.